Alright guys, here's just a quick video of some tips and tricks for the Ryobi RTS 10G. If you have the money, I would get a better table saw than this. But if you're on a budget, I mean this thing was like 130 bucks, this is the way to go. If you have a little bit more money or a better skill set than I have, honestly, you could take the cheapness of this for 130 bucks and build a new surface, a new table, and then a new fence system. Because really that's the biggest drawback to this thing is the fence system. It's just not that great. But I'm here to give you a couple of tips in case you do want to just stick with what you got, or you're just on a super budget, or you don't have the skill system to build a whole new fence. All right, so a couple quick pointers. I don't know if you'll have better luck than I did, but I had really bad luck with a riving knife. I wanted to use it, for any of my bigger cuts or taller stock. I had some wood I had to cut. When you have the blade raised, it's really good to have this thing. It prevents kickbacks, but I had some problems with this. I could not get it to work on any blade I had, and I tried 3 different blades. I bought 3 blades. None of them worked. So basically, what would happen is every time I would move my stock through, it would catch on the riving knife. And, pretty much you just use this key. If anybody does want to attempt this, you just use this key, you stick it back here, and it's got a couple little bolts in there that you just loosen, and then you can move the riving knife left or right. I just had no luck no matter what I tried, and I tried for hours and hours. All right, another tip for people just getting this set up, you have to make sure your blade is straight up. To do that, it has a bevel over here. After a bunch of uses, I'm actually starting to have some problems with this. Basically, you unlock it, you move it as far as you can over there so that it says 0, but what's happening as I'm using it is after every cut, it's sliding, it's not locking. There's no directions on how to fix that. I flipped it upside down. I found a bolt, but it's not one that you can tighten or loosen, so I tried tightening this, and it's not really helping. So if anybody could figure that out, yeah, you let me know. Underneath it, there's a flat round bolt. You can't tighten it or loosen it. It's just flat, and it's nothing you could do about it. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys, but it didn't happen until after like 100 cuts or so. And it works. I just have to reset it every single cut. But the main reason I'm making this video is to save you guys some time with the fence system, as that's the #1 biggest drawback. Is what happens when you move this fence left or right. What happens is it doesn't move uniformly. Like in a really good system, when you move this, the whole thing moves all at once. But what happens with this cheap ass one is when you move it, you see how it doesn't, just one side moves and the other side doesn't? Yeah, that sucks. But I found a couple ways to save you guys a lot of time. 2 tips. You could try tightening it over here. If you tighten it too much, you won't even be able to clamp it shut. So the funny thing is, the tighter it is, the less it slides. But like I said, you tighten it too much and it won't even clamp. So that helps a little, but not a lot. Honestly, the easiest way I've found, one thing you can do, first off, is make some markings. Once you took the time to actually get it straight, I marked with some dots, a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch and 3/4 for some really narrow rips. It just kind of helps let you know to reaffirm that you're straight on. I mean, I did it with a Sharpie. You don't even have to do that. Honestly, the easiest, most effective way to do it is, first off, you want to move it. When you're moving it, you want to move it pushing up or forward, and as you're moving it forward, you move it left and right. Let me see if I can back the camera up. You move it as a whole, but the thing is that even doing that, it'll stick a little, and then when you go to lock it down, it won't come up completely right. 9 out of 10 times that comes out right, or maybe 8 out of 10 times, but every once in a while it'll just kind of mess up. And so what I've gotten used to now is just checking it every time. So as long as you make sure your blade's straight with a T-square, you have to have an engineering square. Here, let me, it makes sense if I just show you real quick. You just gotta have one of these. It's a must, and you just gotta make sure your blade's straight. As long as your blade's straight with that bevel part I showed you, only one time do you have to measure and make sure that your blade is perfectly aligned to this line. This should be perfectly straight right here, the yellow line. Only once did I have to make sure that was right, and basically it just has to do with the bevel. Okay, so once you know that, all you have to do is to check it really quickly is, once again, move it right here to the spot where you gotta be. Let's say it's like, I don't know, let's say 4 inches. Okay, let's say you think you know where it's at. You locked it down. You can use one of these, but honestly, I like the digital calipers the best. The easiest way I found to do it is I just pinch this up against the side and move. Oh wow, look at that. It's almost right on the yellow line, just randomly. I didn't plan that out. That's what I was gonna say. I just move this until it's right on the yellow line. I get the reading, and then you can just move it up here to the top. Make sure it's, it's right on. And if it's right on both spots, you're good to go. And if it's not, all you have to do is just unlock it. Let's say it's off just a half of a millimeter up here. All you do is you unlock it and just move it like a half a millimeter up. And while you're doing that, I lock it. I use my stomach or my leg or something to kind of hold it in place. And then once I start pushing it down, even like halfway, it kind of already holds in place. Then I just pop it down. I know that sounds like a lot of work, and it really is, because this fence system sucks. But if you don't do this, if you don't check every single time and make sure that, it's level, your cuts aren't going to be perfectly straight. Because mine weren't coming out straight. It looked like it was straight, but when I was actually gluing the pieces together, I found that it was just slightly off, and it was driving me nuts, and I spent tons of hours. And if you want to save this headache, buy a more expensive table saw. But if you're like me and you only wanted to spend like 130 bucks, 150 bucks, this does the job. I mean, it really does. It'll get you better, cleaner, quicker cuts than a circular saw will. Circular saw will still do the job, so if that's what you got, then build a guide system for that. But if you want a table saw, it's what I recommend. This is the way to go. Hopefully this helps somebody. All right, thanks guys.